This is Modern Persian Food,
a culinary podcast for today's food enthusiast.
We talk about classic Persian flavors,
modern recipes,
and embracing culture and identity through food.
I'm Bita.
And I'm also Bita.
Welcome to our show. Hi, friends. Welcome to episode 182. Today, we're going to talk about a very special rice dish, Persian jeweled rice, Jeweled Polo, a rice fit for the queens. Now, if you could close your eyes and picture a dish as beautiful as it is delicious, a dance on your taste buds, that would be Persian jeweled rice, Jeweled Polo. This is a rice of many names. Persian jeweled rice, Persian wedding rice, or bride's rice. Jeweled Polo, Shirin in the Persian language means sweet. Javaher Polo, which means jewels. Morassa Polo, which also means jewels. It's a super special layered rice dish. If you're here with us for the first time today, thank you so much for joining us and welcome. What we know about you is that you are craving a connection and a deeper understanding of the Persian culture, as are we, through the lens of food. We're so glad you're here. With us, as always, is partner and co-host, the other Bita June. Hey, Bita.
Hi there, Beata June. Thank you for the beautiful introduction to the Persian jeweled rice, Javaher Polo. I'm excited to talk about that with you today.
Yeah, we're going to cover when it's typically served and Persian cultural traditions, some modern variations and shortcuts, and we're going to give you a recipe walkthrough of how to make this beautiful rice. Be sure to stay with us to the end, too, because we're going to get into some other things that we've been making on repeat that we're obsessed with and we can't wait to share with you. So why don't we get right into it? What's Jeweled Polo, Bita June? When do we eat it?
Yes, so this Jeweled Polo, this Javaher Polo, is part of the family of these sweet layered rice dishes. Dating back to thousands of years ago, rice was such an important part of Persian culture. And about the Safavian time era, about the 1500s, is where layered rice dishes really started making their debut. Rices being layered with beautiful flavors and colors, really making show-stopping, stunning dishes to serve to guests, to honor people's guests. These are really beautiful dishes. And so they serve these dishes at celebratory occasions. Jeweled Polo, a sweet rice, is definitely on the table when there's a occasion to be celebrated. And so for weddings, for happy occasions, this is a dish that's always featured.
I could see it being part of a royal dynasty, it being very expensive ingredients with the saffron and all of the special nuts and pistachios and dried fruit. It's also so colorful. I envision a crown with all of the gems, and kind of cool that that's what one of the names are. Javaher means jewel, and so does Morassa.
You know, that's it. The name says it all. It's like a treasure chest of like jewels with all the different colors of the ruby red colors and the green pistachio colors, so emeralds. So it's really fun to visually see it. And it has some really delicate flavors in there that we'll get into in just a second. But what I really love about this dish is that it's so customizable. So, you know, you can make it with like barberries, which are tangy and tart. But if you want like a more simple way, you could always use dried cherries. You know, we'll talk about how we can use the different ingredients that you have, but I love it that it's just like you can customize it to whatever you either have on hand or whatever flavor profile you're looking to achieve.
Absolutely. It can be simple. It can be as simple as just having zareshk. That is the tart barberries that we can sometimes candy and cook with a little bit of saffron, or it can have every type of dried fruit, you know, that you could possibly get in every color, and then add some super special garnishes and all the different nuts. So it could be super, super ornate, or it could be quite simple. So I do love that about it too. And you can make it your own. You can put the things that you love. And maybe not everybody loves a super sweet rice dish. So I have some little hacks and tips for sort of how to make it so that it's customizable. So we'll get into that as well.
All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about the different types of toppings. I've been talking about barberries. I mentioned dried cherries. What else? What are some of the other ingredients that we can use?
Yeah, so it's a layered rice dish. So of course you start with a parboiled rice. You can then make it a couple of different ways. For a layered rice dish, you can lay a tahdig if you prefer and put some parboiled rice and then put a layer of the special topping, put some more of the parboiled rice. You can layer it up and steam it all together so that all the flavors and aromatics cook together. And then you can sort of mix it as you're serving it. So that is one way to make this dish. Another way is to make your rice sort of separately and then to consider the toppings as a separate thing that you put on at the end as almost like a garnish across a big mound of rice and serve it as a centerpiece. I love doing it this way. It is perfect for the holidays. It is a celebration rice, as we said. And some of the other toppings include the jewels, carrot and orange peel. So that's a nice bright orange. There's a traditional way of doing this, and there, of course, are tons of shortcuts. So the traditional way of adding the orange peel is to kind of peel your orange, take the rind off, and then there's multiple boiling steps to get the bitter taste out. You want to make sure you get all the pith out. You can use dried orange rind that you order. Again, you would need to boil and then candy it. So it just depends how into it you want to get. I recently made it. I had the idea to try to get already candied orange rind based on the fact that you like to use orange marmalade, right?
Yeah, so that's my little hack is I love the bitterness of, the subtle bitterness of this dish. And that comes from the orange. And for me, I feel like it's a little too time consuming to do the multiple boilings of the orange peel to get like all the real bitterness out of it. I use a shortcut hack of using like an orange peel marmalade that I just love. I dilute a few tablespoons of it with a little bit of warm water and I add it as the very final step of the topping. So just to kind of finish going over what are in the topping. So we talked about barberries and dried cherries. I like to add apricot. It actually came about one day just because I was looking to make this topping and I was looking at all the dried fruit that I had and I decided, why don't I just try it with apricot? And I've been loving it. I cut each apricot into like 2 or 3 slices.
I do that as well. And that's funny because I've always used apricot. I love dried apricot. So that's like a taste preference thing too. And it also is a nice color contrast because I like dried tart cherries. So I'll do dried tart cherries with the dried apricot. And sometimes I'll do like a low sugar craisin or dried cranberry.
I also like adding golden raisins to it too.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And it's like, getting all the different colors. And then, we get the nuts in there too. So slivered almonds or slivered pistachios, or I've been actually honestly using whole pistachios as like a really easy way that I've been cooking. I've been cooking this dish actually a lot recently for recipe testing and for the cooking classes that I've been doing. So, and that we're going to be doing. So I've just been throwing big whole pistachios in there, and that is great too with the pop of the green. But yeah, my hack of the marmalade, and I love how you use the already candied orange peel. They're so delicious.
The orange twist worked out so well, so I get a little bit perfectionist-y about the presentation. I like to do the striped version because everyone can kind of, when it's serving time, you can kind of take the part that you like. So I got really granular about separating the toppings the most recent time I made it, but I really liked these cocktail orange twists. What I liked about it is that I could pick out the orange rinds that are already candied, and then I even sliced them a little thinner, and I ended up mixing those with blanched matchstick carrots, and I blanched them so they got a nice bright orange color, put them in an ice bath, and then I mixed the orange twist cocktail orange rinds that are already sweet with a little bit of rose water, and it was so easy. And then I added my carrots into that. So I had that orange stripe.
Oh, the orange was all, yeah. Okay, it was 2 parts.
Yeah. Another thing I love to do is to get the special green pistachio. It's a little tricky to get. You can get them online or you can get them in a Persian market. They're really green. And get the slivered green pistachios. You get an entire, like, very green stripe with the pistachios. But yeah, your hack of using a whole pistachio is great. It doesn't have to be the green slivered specialty ones. The other day I didn't have almond, which is really unusual, but we didn't have almonds. But we had cashews, and it was delicious. I mean, it's rich and decadent, which this rice is. So to visualize it, imagine serving up a big mound of basmati rice. I then put a topping of saffron infused rice. So you have a yellow crown on top of the white rice. And then for the toppings that we've just been talking about, I'll do a stripe of dried, slightly sauteed fruit that's chopped up, the all yummy things we talked about, dried apricots, dried cherries, dried cranberries, yellow raisins, stripe. And that is cooked with a little bit of saffron, and maybe you might add a little bit of sugar if you want it sweeter. Maybe you might add a little bit of rose water if you like that as you're cooking it. And then you put it on top in a stripe. And then over the mound of rice, you might do a stripe of your pistachios. I do a stripe of, I actually did this separately this time. I did the sliced onions that I grilled until they were translucent and added just a little bit of saffron. And I did the onion stripe and, a zeresh stripe, which is a dried barberry. So you're starting to get the picture, right? And we'll include a picture in our cover image and our social media so you can see exactly what we're talking about. But one part of the recipe we haven't covered, that was sort of all the visual and like major topping, is the possible aromatics of it.
Yeah, what I've been doing is I actually have been soaking my almonds and pistachios in a little bit of rose water. Pretty much that's just at the beginning of cooking. I'll put that in a separate bowl. And then that, for me, adds a really nice, delicate flavor throughout. And of course, saffron, the beautiful golden color and the aromatic special flavor and color that is like present in many of our Persian dishes. That's really like showcased here too, because it is such a special celebratory show-stopping dish.
It really is. In the past, I've added orange blossom water. I really love a neroli flavor. And this rice is so fragrant. It's so hard to describe. I take a bite and I feel like I'm instantly transported to a wedding, a Persian wedding with dancing and love. And however, when I used the candied orange twists that are, meant, I guess, to be for a Tom Collins or some sort of cocktail, I didn't feel like I needed the orange blossom water. It was orangey enough. So it's very optional. It's different from family to family. I think it's aromatic enough just with the rose water and the saffron. I like your trick of soaking your nuts in the rose water. Do you toast your nuts as well, or do you not cook them?
I've been buying some that are already a little bit roasted, so it just makes it easier. And so one way that I've been approaching this dish is just trying to make it like very simple. So, we talked about carrots, but getting the pre-shredded carrots right from the grocery store is like a big hack for me. And also like adding the jam diluted in a little bit of water at the very end to add like a glossiness and a sweetness. And I don't add any additional sugar to my topping. So it's just kind of like an easy way to add those flavors and pulling it together. I start with a base of onions. I believe that you do as well. We started off the dish. That's again, something's a little bit customizable. Traditional shireen polo doesn't actually start with onions. So that's, a little customization that we do. And then just sauteing the different fruits. And I like to hydrate them first, actually. Again, at the beginning of cooking, when I soak the nuts, I'll soak the dried fruit as well in a little bit of warm water. And by the time that I'm ready to cook them, they have softened a little bit and just are able to plump up and be like really like jeweled like on top of the rice.
I love that technique, plumping up the dried fruit. I'm glad you mentioned it. And so you don't have to do this elaborate rainbow of toppings. And so in your version, when it's in my bowl, it's all mixed up anyways. I love it. All the toppings, I mix it up and get mixed up in your tummy anyway. So when you're serving it, what does it look like?
Yeah, exactly. So my version, I don't use a ton of saffron in the topping. I use the saffron with like my tajik and on the rice. And so what presentation for me looks like is I have a beautiful pile of rice, and I typically invert my tajik, my pot with my rice and the tajik on the bottom. I invert it, and I've been using this really beautiful gold tray. And so I inverted on that. I lift the tajik off, and now I have this beautiful rice that's fluffy, that is infused with saffron. And then I have the topping all together. So I have it all mixed. And I talked about like a crown, but like, like all the jewels all mixed together on top of the rice as like a centerpiece on top of it. And when you serve it up, it kind of gets naturally mixed together. And I think it looks stunning in this round platter. And it's definitely fit for royalty. And also just like, why not? It's such a fun dish. Most people love the sweetness of it. And I pair it with some braised chicken. You can really pair it with anything, but I love it with the chicken. And I love also having a salad shirazi. So you get the little tartness of the lemon or lime juice and the cucumber, onion, tomato salad. So I think it's a delicious dish, and we should use more opportunities to feature this dish and enjoy it with our family and friends.
Totally. It's traditionally served with chicken, lamb, or meatballs. It's sometimes fun to make little meatballs and have it with whatever type of meatballs. And you can even just serve it. It's a meal in itself. If you have vegetarian guests, you can just serve the rice. So it has a lot of options. You've got some other little dishes that you can roll the topping into. Why don't you tell us about those?
Yeah, so this topping, I love actually making tachin, which is another like inverted rice dish, but that one is baked. And I love using this same topping feature right on top of the tachin. You could layer it in there. My aunt, who actually taught me how to make tachin, Giti Jun, she would use kind of a similar topping, more with like zirishk and almonds, and layer that into her tachin. But I feel like when I make tachin these days, I just like to have it with the rice and possibly chicken in there. And again, that's mixed with eggs and yogurt and cook low and slow in the oven. I love having this topping just on top of it. Again, trying to make it like easy for myself to make. This same topping also, I love rolling into my cinnamon rolls, my jeweled cinnamon rolls that are great during this time period. And as the weather's getting colder and fun for like the holidays, for cookie parties and the such. And that is just puff pastry or dough, and rolling this topping in between it, like a cinnamon roll, rolling it and then slicing it and then baking it off. And it's just such a delight. It's so sweet and beautiful. You could put a little cinnamon in there. It's a really fun and versatile topping. You can see what you have in your cabinet, what kind of dried fruits you have. And even at its most simple form, you can use just regular raisins and whatever nuts that you have. Some walnuts in there too would be delicious.
Thank you for sharing those options. And it's great, when you're buying these ingredients, to be able to use them for other dishes as well. I love tachin as is. I don't need anything on it, but if I am going to try to go a little bit more traditional, I will do zereshk. I'll just kind of saute it in butter and a little bit of sugar. I like it with a little bit of sugar if I'm going to have that sour barberry taste. But yours sounds like super elevated with all the different things that we just talked about. And your jeweled cinnamon rolls are lovely. I've made them before in the past. They're a crowd pleaser. They're easy to put together and really elegant for the holidays or for really any time.
Yeah, I love it.
Talking about all the little toppings and ingredients that we use reminds me of something that I've been making on repeat.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me what you've been cooking this season.
I've been so into fall spices, which isn't really like me. I'm talking about actual pumpkin pie spice.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And like creamers and coffee drinks. And it's usually too much, but I do love a great fall scented candle. And it just sort of feels so warm and cozy. And so I've been making my friend's pumpkin crunch recipe. I tried to put a little Persian flair in there, and I've been making it with pistachio, pumpkin seeds. It's really simple. It's just like a twice baking process. You bake nuts. I use the pumpkin seeds and the pistachio. Then you add your spice. You can make it so simple and just add maple syrup and pumpkin pie spice and then bake it again. And you're pretty much good to go. And then you mix in your dried fruit at the end.
Oh, okay. So you don't cook the fruit at all?
Don't cook the fruit at all. You could pump it, I guess, if you wanted to. But yeah, I love it. I love it in my morning yogurt parfait. I love it sprinkled on the salad or just as like a healthy little power snack. So I also kind of realized that, you know what? Pumpkin pie spice has a couple Persian spices in it. What typically is in a pumpkin pie spice mix is cinnamon. Well, there's nutmeg, ginger, allspice, cloves, but it does have cinnamon and sometimes cardamom. So, hey.
Yeah, you're getting a little bit of that Persian flavor in there too.
Getting a little bit of that in there.
That sounds delicious. I saw your pictures that you posted. That looks so good. And I'm like, oh gosh, I wish my kids would eat that because it looks super good and comfy. Yeah.
You should try. You can make it kind of salty sweet, and it's fun to share it. I like putting it in little mason jars and sharing it with friends.
Aw, yeah, that's super sweet and cute. You know, it's the season for me, although I make this all year long. But now as we are getting close to Thanksgiving and in the late fall, I've been making a bunch of Haleem. And again, Haleem is the porridge that I take the liberty of making a few hacks to just to make it super simple. And I use broth and I use chicken. I have this all cooked together with oats, and then I use a hand immersion blender to just smooth it all out. And I love having this. And the traditional way that you have Haleem, we've talked about Haleem a bunch, but I just still is like an item that I make all the time. But the traditional way to serve it is with cinnamon and sugar and a lot of melted butter. And that's not the way that I want to really eat it these days. I'm conscious about how much sugar I eat, and I really love making this a really like savory dish. And so I just wanted to share some different ways that I've been eating it. And most noteworthy is that I've been topping it with olive oil. And if I have a little bit of jam or something tart, I'll add that. But if not, just with cinnamon. And I really love the pepperiness of the olive oil. And it just really is such a fun, cozy way to eat it. It reminds me of like a congee or like a different kind of rice or wheat pudding that you will have like for breakfast. You can also have it with a poached egg on top, which is kind of fun, and maybe a little bit of a chili crisp for a little bit of kind of fun, different way of having this Haleem. And Haleem is like, it's perfect to make after Thanksgiving if you're going to be utilizing your leftovers to make like a nice broth. And you can also use the leftover turkey meat to add into it, blend it all together if you want to, for the smoother consistency. But the other day I was actually making it and I didn't really want to get the hand immersion blender out. So I had a more rustic, kind of heartier version of Haleem. And that was really good. I have to say one more thing on that. I had made a batch and then I was like made a serving for my breakfast the next morning in a little like glass container that I had. And I added the olive oil to it. And the next morning when I went to go eat it, the olive oil had hardened in the fridge. And then it felt like such a decadent dessert, like breaking through the hard olive oil, sinking into the oat porridge. It was super delicious. And it was just a fun way to eat Haleem.
So interesting. All of your variations of Haleem with the olive oil. Never in a million years would I think to put olive oil, but why not? If you put butter, why not olive oil? Sometimes you'll do fruit or sweet, and sometimes you'll do savory, adding protein with the egg. And it sounds like you're not just having it for breakfast. In Iran, as far as my understanding goes, it was a breakfast food. But it sounds like you're having it like any time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a go-to for lunch. And I also have been freezing it in ice cube trays. And then it's ready to go. So then I can kind of pop like 4 or 5 of the ice cube trays in like a jar or a bowl. And then, by the time lunchtime comes, or the night before, I'll put it in the fridge. And then by the time lunchtime comes, I just have to warm it up and it's ready to go.
Oh, wow. Good hacks. And meal prep.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like just a staple to every meal. I love it. That's great. Well, this has been so fun to talk about Jeweled Polo. Way back, I think it was maybe episode 3, we talked about it. And in our wedding, because it is a wedding rice traditionally, we tried to have aspects of Persian culture and American culture. And I got to teach the chef of the venue. We couldn't bring in catering, so we had to use the chef and the food of the venue where we had our wedding. So I got to teach the chef how to make shireen polo. And we had a big, huge wedding of almost 300 people where everybody had shireen polo. It was not a buffet like lots of Persian weddings are. It was a sit down. Everyone was served shireen polo and a choice of steak or chicken. So it was very unique blending. And I loved talking about this. And I'm so excited to be teaching shireen polo to a group of friends and women coming up. So we're going to put our superpowers together and pull off a really awesome cooking class in person.
Yeah, and it's been a hit with the other people that I've been sharing this recipe with too. So hopefully our listeners, you guys can take a stab at making this celebratory dish. And as we get closer to the holidays, impress your friends and impress yourself with your culinary skills.
Thank you, Bita June. Thank you, listener. We're so glad you joined us. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Modern Persian Food Podcast with Beata and Bita. Thanks for spending time with us. If you've enjoyed what you heard today, consider telling a friend or giving us a good rating. You can subscribe to our show for free on your favorite podcasting app or find us online at modernpersianfood.com or on Instagram for the recipes and information we talked about today. We'd love to hear your thoughts and see you next time.